I turned 32 at 9 in the morning and got fired at 9:15. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and dry markers. My boss sat across from me with a folder he would not open. He did not even look up when he said the words, "Your position has been eliminated." He slid the folder toward me with 2 fingers like it was something that could stain him. "Happy birthday to me," I said, trying to make my mouth feel normal. He did not smile. He just pointed to the line where I was supposed to sign. I signed. I thanked him for the opportunity because I was still the kind of person who said, "Thank you," even when someone was taking my chair away. He stared at the wall clock while I gathered my things. It ticked loud for a room that small. I walked back to my desk carrying the little box everyone carries on TV. A plant, a mug with a chip in it, 2 notebooks with folded corners, a sweater with a coffee stain I always meant to wash. People looked down when I passed. One person looked up and then looked away too fast. Someone had put a single cupcake on my keyboard with a blue candle stuck in the middle. There was a yellow sticky note that said, "Happy birthday, Claire." I picked up the cupcake. I blew out the candle without making a wish. Wishes felt silly in a place that sent people home before lunch. I put the cupcake in the box, took one last look at the screensaver still floating on my monitor like it belonged to someone else, and walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with the air off and listened to my breath. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was something colder. I had felt it once when I missed a step in the dark and kept falling for a long time before I hit the floor. I watched the sun flash across all the windshields in a neat row and thought about the folder sliding across the table. I thought about the subject line in the email he would send after the meeting. Restructure, right size, strategic shift. All those words that mean the same thing. I looked at the time. 9:23. I could drive home and call my mother. I could cry. I could eat the cupcake right there and let the frosting smear on my lip. I did none of those things. I turned the key and drove 2 blocks to the park where I used to eat lunch when it was warm. I sat on a bench. I opened the folder. Severance for 2 weeks. Health coverage through the end of the month. Return badge at security. No mention of the team I led. No mention of the project I had pushed across the finish line last quarter when the numbers were slipping. No mention of the late nights or the early mornings. Just lines and boxes and my name. Claire Whitmore. There it was, printed neat and small. Most people at the company did not know that last name. I had kept it low. No photos on the wall with me in them. No last name on my email signature, just Claire from Growth. I wanted to earn my way without someone's hand on my back. My father respected that, or said he did. When I took the job 3 years ago, he asked me twice, "Are you sure?" I told him I wanted to learn the inside, the way everyone else learns it. He said fine, but he looked at me for a long time, like he knew where this road led. I told no one. I used my middle name when it came up with vendors. I paid my own rent. I never once used the family driver. I took buses when my car was in the shop. I wanted to be able to say I could do it alone. That is a hard thing to let go of once you decide it is yours. 6 months before my birthday, the new boss came in. His name was Mr. Rains, but everyone called him Wade when he was not in the room, and Sir when he was. He introduced himself with a joke about cutting fat. He clapped a lot. He wore shirts that had his initials stitched near his wrist. He made a slide deck about the future and how we all were lucky to be invited to it. After that came small things. He stopped saying please. He started asking for updates at 11 at night. He missed my one-on-one twice in a row and then wrote a note in my file about my lack of visibility. He told another manager, in a meeting I sat in, that I was good with people, but not numbers. I was the one who built the dashboard that saved his quarter. He did not know that. He did not look at who had pushed the commit. I did not push back. Not at first. I watched. I listened. I kept every email where he talked about moving revenue between quarters. I saved screenshots when he changed the goalposts in mid-month. I took notes when he used my ideas and called them his. I have always written things down. It is how my mind stays steady when other people try to move the room. I started reading our policy manual again, not for comfort, but for rules. I read the whistleblower page twice. I did not send anything. I was not ready to be the loudest voice. I was still trying to be the quiet person who gets things done and does not need a spotlight to see. On the morning of my birthday, I stopped at the bakery on the corner. I bought bagels for the team and wrote the place's name on the box like a small ad. I walked in and set them on the table by the window like I always did on Fridays. People said thanks. The intern took the sesame one he always took. My friend Jenna saved me the cinnamon raisin. We laughed about something small. Then my phone buzzed. Please see me in conference 2 at 9. That was all. No name. I knew who it was. I looked at the time. 1 minute to 9, I wiped a crumb from my lip, stood, and walked in. When it was over, when the cupcake was in my box and the sticky note was in my pocket, I carried everything down the stairs because I did not want to share the elevator with anyone who might ask a kind question. I handed my badge to security and watched the red light blink when he scanned it. He tried to be nice. He said good luck out there, like we were both actors in a small play. I stepped out into the street where the buses made the same loud sigh they always make when the doors close. I walked past the coffee shop where the barista knew my order. I turned left at the flower stand that smelled like cut stems and wet paper. I kept walking until the tightness in my chest turned into something like choice. I drove home and put the box on my kitchen table. I did not turn on the lights because the sun was strong through the blinds. I opened my laptop and checked the personal email account I use for bills and photos. There was a message from HR Time stamped 9/17. It was polite in the way a letter from a stranger is polite. It said I could keep my laptop for a week if I returned it by courier after I moved my personal files. It said I could reach out if I had questions. It did not say why. I closed the computer, I took a shower, the water ran hot. I watched it run over my hands until the water cooled and I had to step out. I ate the cupcake standing at the counter. The frosting was too sweet. I licked my thumb and pressed it against the crumbs stuck to the paper. Then I sat down and made a list. Call Jenna. Save work files I personally wrote. Export call notes. Pull audit logs from the shared drive. Our policies gave 30 days of access to personal work artifacts after termination. It was meant to be humane. It was also a door left open. I was not trying to hurt anyone. I wanted the truth in a safe place. I opened the network folder where the quarterly forecast models lived. I downloaded the versions with timestamps. I saved copies of the emails where numbers moved like chairs on a deck. I printed to PDF the slide where Wade wrote that our churn was down when it was flat. I saved the meeting transcript where he told a vendor to roll that invoice into next month so the story is clean. He liked that word. Story. He said it often. He said it like numbers were just paragraphs that you could edit if you did not like them. At noon, I opened a new message and sent a note to my father's private email. It was short. Fired today. I am fine. Not asking for help. Just letting you know so you do not hear it from someone else. Love you. He replied 13 minutes later with a sentence that made heat rise behind my eyes. Proud of you. Call if you want to talk. No pressure. We did not call. I was not ready to be anyone's child in that moment. I was trying to feel the size of my own name again. Jenna called me at 1. She had cried in the bathroom after I left and then felt angry that no one else cried with her. She told me Wade had laughed about something at 10, loud enough that people turned. She told me he had taken my chair. He liked my chair because the back tilted just right. Of course he did. I asked her for a favor. Print me the public org charts from last year and this year. Circle who is gone. She sent me a photo 15 minutes later of a paper full of circles. 22 people. Most of them reported to me at some point. Most of them had asked for training and been told to wait. I thanked her and told her not to get in trouble. She said I was not the one who should be worried about trouble. I went for a walk at 3. The air had that late winter bite that makes your lungs feel clean. I counted mailboxes to calm my head. 10 to the corner, 10 more past the school. A dog barked behind a fence and then stopped like it remembered its own rules. I passed a boy on a bike with a helmet too big. He said hello like a person who had not learned yet that strangers keep their eyes on the ground in this city. I said hello back and kept going. When I got home, my phone buzzed again. A message from Wade that had both my personal and my work email in the send line. It said, "Good luck, Claire. You have a bright future ahead." He attached a company quote graphic like a small pat on the head. I stared at it until my hand stopped wanting to throw the phone across the room. Then I filed it in a folder named after. That night I sat at my kitchen table with 2 notebooks. In the first I wrote the story the way he would tell it. I wrote the buzzwords. I wrote the lines he used about vision. In the second I wrote the facts, names, dates, screenshots. I did not plan to use the first notebook. I wrote it so I would know the shape of what I was pushing against. If you cannot see the shape, you will swing at air. The next morning, I drove to the office in a simple black dress and a coat with deep pockets. I was not there to make a scene. I was there to return my badge like the paper said. I handed it to security. The red light blinked again. I asked for a visitor pass. The guard looked surprised. He made a call. He looked even more surprised after the call and slid a pass across the desk. I clipped it to my coat. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the floor above mine. I stepped out into the hallway lined with framed photos of customers and team wins. There was a photo of a charity day where my team had built a playground. I had taken the photo, and still somehow I was not in it. The boardroom doors were open because cleaning crew was still inside rolling a cart. You could smell lemon cleaner and old carpet. I stood near the wall where no one would notice me if they looked up. I waited. At 9, people started to arrive for the weekly senior meeting. The chief financial officer, the general counsel, the head of sales who always wore suits in bright colors. Wade walked in last. He checked his hair in the glass like he was alone. The CEO walked in 2 minutes later. He is a man who moves like he has a pencil line down his back. He has quiet eyes and a soft voice that people lean toward. He said good morning to the room. Someone passed out a paper agenda. I stepped in then, not fast, not slow, just like I belonged to the air in that space. The room shifted, heads turned. The general counsel stood halfway, like she did not know whether to block me or greet me. The CEO looked at me, and in that quick look, I saw everything. Surprise, worry, and then something like relief. He did not look at Wade. He looked at me and said, "Claire, I did not know you were here today." I said, "I am returning my badge." I set a small stack of paper on the table. It was 1 inch thick. It was not even close to everything I had. The CFO pulled the stack closer and started to read. I watched his finger move down the page. First the email about deferring invoices, then the version history that showed numbers changed after the quarter closed, then the meeting transcript where Wade said, "The board loves a good story more than a good number." The CFO stopped breathing for a second. "You can hear that in a room like that." The general counsel picked up the next page. She did not sit down. She read standing up like a person who had to keep her muscles ready. The CEO did not touch the papers. He watched me like a person who knows that turning your head at the wrong moment can make you miss the truth. Wade tried to smile. He tried to make it light. He said, "Claire, we wish you the best," he said. "This is a tough time for everyone." He said, "Sometimes numbers move in a way that people outside finance do not understand." I did not take my eyes off the CEO. I said, "I do not need to be in this room. I only came to return my badge and to make sure the stack did not get lost." Then I turned to leave. The general counsel asked me to stay. The CEO said, "Claire, can you give us 15 minutes? He did not use my last name. He did not use any title, just Claire, level and simple. I stayed. I sat at the end of the table where no one was sitting. I folded my hands in my lap so they would have a job. The CFO asked questions about dates. He asked what file systems I used. He asked whether the logs were mine or pulled by IT. I gave short answers. He nodded like a person doing math in his head. The general counsel asked if anyone had asked me to change numbers. I said yes, and I said the names. I could feel Wade move even when I did not look at him. The CEO asked one question. "When did you decide to bring this here?" I said. "Yesterday, at 9:15. His eyes flicked once and then were still again. They thanked me. The general counsel asked if I could step into her office while they reviewed. She said it would not be long. I said yes. In her office, she poured water into a paper cup and set it near my hand. She asked if I needed anything. I said no. We sat in quiet for a while. On her bookshelf, there was a photo of a dog in a hat that did not fit. I looked at it and thought about the cupcake on my desk. We did not talk about family. We did not talk about last names. We talked about policy. She asked if I wanted to remain anonymous. I said no. She looked at me for a long time, not unkind, like she was measuring something I could not see. After an hour, she led me back to the boardroom. The CEO stood. The CFO stood. Wade was not there. The seat where he had been was pushed back at an odd angle. The CEO said, "Thank you, Claire. We are placing several people on leave while we conduct an external review." I nodded. He added, "Your termination is reversed while this is resolved." I shook my head. I said, "I am not coming back." He did not ask why. He said, "I understand." The general counsel said she would send me a formal letter. The CFO said he would want to ask more about the models later. I said he could. Then I picked up my coat and walked toward the door. Before I reached it, the CEO said my name again. "Claire." I stopped. He looked at me and then past me as if the wall could give him a better angle. He said, "Do you want me to address the other matter in this room or later?" My throat felt dry like paper. I said, "Later is better." He nodded. He said, "Later then." I walked out and down the stairs because I wanted to feel the ground after each step. At the lobby doors, I turned and looked back up into the glass. I could see the reflection of my small figure. I could see the line of photos on the wall behind me. For the first time, I felt my last name hit the air around me like sound. We met later in his private office that did not look like a private office. It had a round table and a narrow couch and a coffee maker that looked older than most of the staff. He closed the door. He poured 2 cups and asked if I took sugar. I said no. He said he was sorry for how the morning had gone. I said I was not here to be pitied. He said he knew that. He said he also knew that I had asked for nothing for 3 years and had been given less. He asked if I wanted him to make the connection public now. I looked at the painting on the wall of the company's first building, a low brick box with ivy. I said I wanted to say it myself. He said, "How?" I said, "In a letter to the staff." He nodded once. He said, "Keep it short and kind." I said, "I always try." That night, I wrote the letter. My name is Claire Whitmore. Some of you know me as Claire from Growth. Some of you know me as the person who brings bagels on Fridays. Some of you do not know me at all. I came here to work and to learn. I did not use my last name because I wanted to do the work without a hand on my back. Yesterday I was let go. Today I shared information that belongs to all of us. It will be handled with care. I am not returning to my role. I am grateful for the people I worked with and the things we built. Be kind to each other. If someone asks for help, try to give it. If someone asks for training, try to find a way. Numbers matter, but people matter more. Thank you for the time we had. I sent it at 8 in the morning. At 8:02, my phone started filling. Dozens of messages from people who had sat 3 rows away from me and never knew. Some were angry at me for not telling them. Some were grateful. Some said it changed how they saw the place. Jenna sent a photo of the break room. Someone had put out bagels with a note that said for Claire. I smiled at that, and then I cried at my kitchen table with the letter to the staff open on my screen, because crying at your own kitchen table is one of the safest places to do it. The papers ran a short piece about the review. They loved the part where a boss gets caught. They did not love the quiet parts, like the way a person sits in a car and watches the sun flash across a row of windshields after being told their chair is no longer theirs. No one writes about the way the frosting sticks to your thumb. But those are the parts that make you a person again when the big parts try to turn you into a headline. The audit took 6 weeks. I was not there for it. I met with the outside firm twice to answer questions about models. I kept my answers simple and clear. They found what I knew they would find, and some things I did not know were there. They found a pattern of moving revenue to make months look smooth. They found emails that told a story with new dates. They found bonuses tied to goals that had been shifted after the fact. Several people were let go. More were asked to reapply for roles under new lines. It was not loud. It was sadly normal. In my inbox, I had messages from 2 managers who said they had tried to say something and felt small when no one heard. I wrote back to both. I told them I believed them. Sometimes that means more than you think. One afternoon, 2 months later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Wade. He wrote, "I did not know who you were." I did not respond. It would not have changed anything if he had known. If he had known, he would have behaved for me and kept behaving the other way for people who did not have a name that could help them. That was the point. He should have behaved because it was right, not because I was a mirror he did not want to look bad in. I found a new job that did not have my last name anywhere near it. A small firm on the edge of the city with mismatched desks and plants that needed water every day. On my first day, I ate lunch with the team at a long table with scratches in the wood. The founder asked me what I liked to build. Not what I could build for him, what I liked. I told him dashboards that tell the truth, even when the truth is not pretty. He laughed and said, "That is a very niche hobby." I said it kept me out of trouble. He asked if I wanted to order a cake for the next person's birthday. I said yes, and this time I would get 2, because people always say no to the first slice and then look sad later. On the morning of my next birthday, I woke up before my alarm. The room was quiet in the way that means you slept deeply. I made coffee and stood at the window while the kettle hissed. I thought about the day in the conference room when the folder slid and the clock ticked and the air felt thin. I thought about the boardroom where I put the papers down like a small, steady weight. I thought about my father's email that said "proud of you" and how those words had filled a space in me that had been empty since I was a girl who tried to carry every bag herself. I sent him a text. "Brunch on Sunday." He sent back a thumbs up and a heart. He is not a man of many words. He saves them for when they count. I met Jenna on a bench in the park where I had once read my severance and eaten a cupcake too sweet for the moment. She brought me a cupcake again, but this time we split it and laughed about the frosting. She told me the company felt different now. Not perfect. Better. That is usually the shape of change. Small and steady. We watched a boy ride a bike with a helmet that fit now. We watched a dog trot by and then stop to smell something no one else could smell. We talked about nothing for long minutes that felt like the right kind of full. A week later, I got a letter in the mail with the company's logo at the top. It was a thank you from the board. It said I had helped protect the company we both loved. It said I had reminded them of the weight of simple rules. It came with a formal note about my role and how it would be recorded. I put the letter in a drawer with things I keep not for their money value, but for the way they hold a day still. In that drawer sits a dried flower from a bouquet that wilted in a nice way, a bus ticket from a trip that made me feel brave, and a sticky note that says, "Happy birthday, Claire," in a hand that I could pick out of 1,000 others. Sometimes people ask me what the reveal felt like. They want a clean scene. They want a single sentence that breaks a room open. It was not that. It was the slow turning of people's heads toward a thing they had tried not to see. It was the sound of paper moving under a finger. It was a chair pushed back at a strange angle. It was a person saying my first name in a quiet voice and asking if I wanted sugar in my coffee. It was a letter sent to staff with simple words. It was the way the air felt after I walked down the stairs and out into the bright day with nothing in my hands and everything I needed still inside me. When I think about that first morning, I do not think about the folder or the clock anymore. I think about the line I wrote in my letter. Be kind if someone asks for help. Because I did not ask for help for a long time. I wanted to prove a thing to myself that did not need proving. The truth is we are all carried a little by someone. The person who shows you where the forms live. The person who saves you the good bagel. The person who stands in a boardroom and does not look away when you walk in. The person who tells you happy birthday even on a hard day. If I did anything worth keeping from that whole mess, it was this. I told the truth in a room where the truth was tired. Then I left the room and went outside and let the day touch my face. Months after all of it, I got coffee with the general counsel. She asked me if I ever felt sorry about how it ended for the people who lost their jobs. I told her the truth. I felt sorry that it took so long for the wrong things to stop. I felt sorry for the quiet ones who learned to keep their heads down because no one thanked them for looking up. I did not feel sorry for a man who slid a folder across a table and would not meet my eyes. She nodded and stirred her cup without drinking. She said that in her work, she kept a little pebble in her pocket to remind her that weight can be small and still be heavy. I like that. I went home and put a small smooth stone in my coat pocket. When my hand finds it, I remember to be simple and to keep standing. One evening, the founder of my new firm asked me to speak to the team about ethics. He said the word like it was a big book. I told them a story instead. Not about last names, not about boardrooms. I told them about a cupcake on a keyboard and numbers that can tell a kind lie if you ask them to. I told them how lies feel easy for a day and heavy for months. I told them how truth is a friend who walks at your pace even when you slow down. When I finished, no one clapped. They just sat with it. I like that more than clapping. There is a photo on my wall now of a small office with mismatched desks and plants. I took it on a day the sun came through the blind at just the right angle to make stripes on the floor. If you look close, you can see a hand in the corner holding a paper cup. It is mine. The photo is crooked because I hung it myself. It makes me smile every morning when I see it. It reminds me that my life is built from rooms I chose to walk into and rooms I chose to leave. It reminds me that ladders are not the only way to measure up. Some of us use benches in parks and long tables with scratches and the weight of a small stone in a pocket. Every now and then, I see someone from the old company on the train. We nod like neighbors across the street. Sometimes they come over and sit. They tell me a new manager says please. They tell me the finance team posts the version history of reports for all to see. They tell me the intern with the sesame bagel runs a team now and still takes the sesame one first. We laugh about that. Then the train stops and we stand and go where we are going. It feels good to leave people better than you found them. I still keep my last name quiet when I meet new clients. Not because I am hiding, but because I like hearing how my own first name sounds when it does not pull a room toward me. When the time is right, I say the rest. Sometimes it matters. Mostly it does not. The work is still the work. The numbers still tell the truth if you let them. The cupcakes are still too sweet and still worth eating. And birthdays come around again, no matter what someone says to you at 9:15 in a small room that smells like coffee and dry markers. When they do, I buy 2 cakes. Because people always say no to the first slice and then look sad later, and I believe in giving them another chance to say yes.